Welcome back to Junction 119. This is Kellan.
This is Casen.
And if you're not familiar with our show setup, usually I'm the one to set the lineup and I send it to Casen a day before. And we kind of look over and he'll add things or not add things. But most of the time, I really just get like a thumbs up emoji or like something like that. Like, you'll like the message. Today, you sent me like a much longer lineup straight back to me.
I mean, I just sort of moved a couple things and I added a couple things that I wanted that I personally wanted to address. One of them you'll see here shortly, but I had an idea of starting out. I wanted to talk. I enjoy hearing myself talk, so I want to do at least start off a new segment, which is a terrific segment for an audio medium. It's called Short and Tell.
Short and
And
tell.
so
Love that.
yeah, so you're gonna want to go ahead and go on YouTube, Junction 119 on YouTube. It'll be a bit more beneficial there, but you'll at least get the gist, I guess,
Sure.
audio wise.
I
But
have no choice,
so
so I have to.
yeah. I have you held captive here to witness this. So, uh, my so to back up to preface, when we sold my childhood home about 9 years ago, we weren't able to take all of our stuff with us, and so because of where we were going, and so a lot of our stuff from our house ended up at my dad's parents' house.
Mhm.
And so he came back this past week and went was going through some of it, and he came down to visit. And so he brought me a handful of things that he found and all that stuff that he didn't want to take back with him. So I have just some items that I thought were of noted interest. If you enjoy uh, chasing the small ball around the grass here,
This is going to be great. All right.
so the first item, I'll start with the first one. It's behind my head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can see very well with the glare,
I
but that
noticed
is
that. Yeah.
that is a memorial pin flag that my
Sweet.
dad got probably 20 years ago. It's signed by Jim Furyk.
Does it have a year on it or something?
I don't know. I don't think there's a year.
I was just curious. I
That
just
might
didn't.
be there might be a year in the signature. I'm not sure. I don't know the year on that. But
No worries.
uh, I also have taken at Muirfield Village
Okay.
a picture of Tiger Woods chipping out
Wow.
of a sand trap that my dad took.
Incredible.
Um, and then I also have also at Muirfield a picture of the Golden Bear, Jack Nichols
Whoa.
himself, signed by
Signed.
Jack.
Yeah. Wow.
So my dad took this at the memorial one year, printed it, brought it to the memorial the next year, and had him sign it. He
That's
was like, "Hey,
awesome.
I took this picture of you last year. Can you sign it?"
That's
And he's like,
incredible.
"So I have this
It's a
very
great
awesome."
shout out your dad. That's an incredible shot too. Like that's a really good
Uh,
picture.
and then I have a lot of golf towels from various locales. This one, let me just let me see this. This one is a U.S. Open 1999 from
Nice.
Pinehurst.
Okay.
It's like vertical, so it's a little hard to see. But
No, it's fine.
yeah, it's a Pinehurst for the U.S. Open 1999.
That
So
is sweet.
and then this one's kind of cool because it's a 100th U.S. Open. So this is the 2000 U.S. Open
Yeah,
at
pull it into
Pebble
frame
Beach.
here. And then pull it all the way up so I can
There we
see like
go.
the bottom. Oh man, that's
Pebble
sweet.
Beach. Yeah.
That's a really good
So there's
crest.
that.
Like
Um,
25-year
what
old.
else? Okay, so this one. Let me see this here. Here is the 35th Ryder Cup from Oakland Hills.
Man. Whoa. Is that like is it framed? Is it like it looks like
It's still in the package. So when you buy a golf pin flag, it comes in like this plastic with the cardboard.
yeah,
So this has not been touched.
it's like a slabbed
This is how you
comic.
buy them.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So this is how you buy them from the stores.
that's sweet.
And then here is also from Oakland Hills, the 1996 U.S. Open.
Wow.
So
So like every single one of these things you're pulling up are like all 30 years old.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And yeah, so that's what was this one? Oh, so this was also the '96 U.S. Open in Oakland Hills.
That's sweet.
So
Almost reminds me
yeah,
of like Nottingham Forest crest.
yeah.
That was great.
So that was just some stuff, some
You got to put those
towels
up,
and
man.
flags. Yeah, I'm planning on it. Yeah, so that was
Among all the
some
other
fun
reasons,
stuff.
you're rearranging things in the house.
Yes. So those all like I remember these pictures of Tiger and Jack in our
Oh
basement.
yeah.
Yeah,
Now they're all in
so
one place. That's
yeah.
that was quite the that was quite the short and tell right there. That was awesome. I feel like I gotta do something similar myself at some point down the road here. But well, thank you, Kason, for that. And again, if you just were listening to the show, definitely pull it up on YouTube and go back and take a look at everything that Kason just held up there. We have mostly sports news on the docket today. We're going to talk about Ironheart at the end of the show, so we do have a little bit of the both pop culture and sports here going on. But we begin with the Browns, your Cleveland Browns, Kason. Why don't
Yes.
you take it away?
Yeah, so I we've talked about it off and on as there's been updates, but the fine state of Ohio passed their budget, and and Governor DeWine signed it, and that meant that the Browns got their $600 million from the state to build their new domed stadium in Brook Park, and so it is officially official. It is happening, and they are planning on it opening for the 29 season.
Okay.
So
So the 29 season, so we'll get a new Brown Stadium around the same time we get a new college basketball video game because that's
yes,
also on our thing. Again,
I think that will be the year after, right? Because I think it's coming in 28.
yeah, it's
I think I'm not sure,
28.
but yeah,
Well,
yeah.
optimistically, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Personally, I think this is great news generally for the Browns. What are like it'll be a new stadium, the state of the art, and unlike like the whole bureaucracy issues they've had in Chicago, where famously it is hard to get anything built. It's hard to get anything built anywhere, really. But I mean, I haven't gotten more familiar with the area that I'm in since I'm more in the Northeast Ohio area than you are, just in terms of where I live. Um, there seems to be kind of that same kind of shrug shoulders of, yeah, it'll be cool, like to have a new stadium for the Browns, to have a dome stadium for all of the events, concerts, Final Four, stuff like that. Um, I just think that anytime this happens, there's always just a collective kind of sigh of, yeah, but like the Browns aren't going to be downtown anymore. Is that kind of how you feel about it, or are you kind of
Yeah,
like,
I
eh?
mean, I certainly sympathize with that view. For the people that are from Cleveland, that live in Cleveland, that live downtown, I certainly sympathize with them. Uh, and as someone, I not from specifically Cleveland,
Yeah,
and someone that lives very close to Interstate 71, I do appreciate this because it'll be much easier and more convenient to get there, for me
definitely.
anyway. But yeah, I mean, but I definitely understand the people that are local and not, you know, enthused about that. But I think everybody should be excited about the opportunities that this lends to the team.
Absolutely.
Um,
Super Bowl, I didn't even mention that.
I
Just,
I mean, I I know there's requirements, and I don't know if we're gonna get there in that like area near Brook Park soon. I just don't know. But based on the NFL's track record of at least giving every new stadium one, they can't just not give Cleveland one. I mean, I don't think they'd come back, but they have to give us one when it
and
opens. I mean, they've proven that track record. Like they've done it for everybody else, and they can't just not come to Cleveland.
they just don't go to
So
Cleveland, even though it's the newest stadium. They're like,
yeah,
Super
yeah.
Bowl in Cleveland, no
I mean,
way.
because there is actually a lot coming up. I mean,
Yeah,
there's the Bills, There's which they probably won't go to because that's open air. That one they can justify and say we're not going to
Yeah,
an open air
yeah,
Buffalo Stadium in
yeah.
February.
You're gonna have a new Buffalo
But
Bills stadium.
Tennessee,
Hmm.
DC's getting one. What was the other one?
Well,
There was another one. I can't remember. There's another one,
theoretically,
but oh, it's Chicago,
theoretically,
Chicago.
theoretically, Chicago, but like no, there's no pen and paper necessarily to that whole plan
Hmm.
yet. Eventually, they will get that done as well. But yeah, I mean, legitimately, there could be like 4 to 5 new NFL stadiums by then. Like by then, the
Yeah.
Browns will just be the newest. I had completely forgotten about Washington D.C., but yeah, that's going to be cool too, and all of these are going to be domed stadiums and stuff. Um, but and honestly, a bunch of franchises that really do deserve new stadiums, the Browns included. I
Hmm.
mean, they need to build like a state of the art stadium.
I mean, something in my mind too that I think will probably end up being there is the Ohio high school state football
Oh,
championship.
100%.
I'm
They'll
sure if it's available, they'd use it for that because I think they play at the Football Hall of Fame now, and it's usually pretty bad conditions because it's real
I can tell
you
you
know
right now, I
into
can
the
tell you right
winter.
now something that's already kind of being discussed, not like like not like officially, but like person to person is the MAC football championship will probably happen there now. Um,
It would be interesting to see it sort of go back and forth between Ford Field
yeah,
and
I like Ford
debate
Field though.
that
That's the thing. I like
that would
Ford
be
Field. So,
I don't yeah, I mean I think Ford Field works. It would be interesting to see it kind of go back and forth between the two,
yeah.
like rotate alternating every other year.
Yeah, maybe they just
Um
every other year they do that. Yeah. I mean, and if for those not aware, the Mid-American Conference headquarters is in Cleveland. Hence why in every other kind of major event happens around the
I
Cleveland area. That's why I said that. But
I
yeah.
would say it's more likely that it moves there than they never play there.
Oh,
You know what I'm
agreed.
saying?
Oh, yeah, it's yeah,
Because they have the basketball at Rocket
Rocket.
Arena because
Yep.
they're headquartered in Cleveland. I They are definitely going to at least split time there, if not fully move there, I would imagine.
The baseball championship happens where the Crushers play. That's another one.
Hmm.
Like the Lake Erie Crushers or whatever. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
all in all, I think this is good. The
I
politics
wouldn't be shocked for a
aside,
bowl game to end up there too. Mhm.
oh, absolutely, it would be great for a bowl game. I
The
mean,
Goodyear Bowl, yeah, something like that. I don't know.
something like that. All in all, I do think it's going to be great for Northeast Ohio and really the state of Ohio in general. Uh, and quite frankly, this is the direction that the business is going, as we've talked about on this show before.
Yeah,
If Yeah,
and I know there's been a lot of pearl clutching from some people with regards to the state funding. I know we've talked about, you
yeah,
know, about that aspect on the show before with some other things with I think the athletics moving, a lot of situations with that. What I will say is that this situation's a little different because, at least in my opinion, because they they it had gotten really bad negotiating with the city of Cleveland,
yeah.
and because there was a lot of I mean I it's sad to see it end this way because the Browns actually made a fairly nice offer at one point of paying to help develop the area down the lakefront whenever they leave. And the city was just ended up going so far negotiating in bad faith that that deal came off the table. And now they're left with nothing, and there's going to be an empty stadium just sitting there, and they're going to pay to get rid of it. So
And they're
it
gonna have to get rid of it too.
yeah, yeah. So it's just kind of sad to see all that end up because the city was so unwilling to even negotiate, and they ended up with a total of $600 million in funding. Which, to be clear, this is not like a money from the state. This is $600 million that is coming from the state unclaimed funds money, and it is
Mhm.
going to be paid back as revenue comes in from the new stadium. It will be paid back to the state, So it's essentially like a loan.
Yeah, that's
Um,
kind
and
of how I
there
picture it too.
and there is other revenue generating things. I believe there might be some sort of hotel tax with the hotels around the area that will generate revenue. And so there's other revenue generating mechanisms for the state. And and not a lot of owners do this, but the Haslam's were very keen to make sure that money did not come from other places. That they
Yeah,
were like they're saying we're not taking school money, we're not taking other funding, so they got this other sourced funding. And just for some comparisons here, so I people can, be all mad about, about this public funding thing, but let's just go around the league with some other funding systems that the other stadiums have. The new Las Vegas
yeah, the
Allegiant Stadium.
syntax. Yeah,
Well, so this was $750 million in public funds that I don't believe is being paid back outside of the additional tax
yeah, it's
revenue
like the
from
tourism
the
tax stuff that they do in
yeah.
Vegas. Yeah, it's like funded
Um,
several projects now.
Minnesota. So Minnesota was almost 10 years ago.
Yeah,
So it's a little less, but it was 348 million from the state of Minnesota and 150 million from the city of Minneapolis. So from the city of Minneapolis,
from the
150
city.
million.
Yeah,
So that's almost $500 million that wasn't paid back. That was essentially just public money given away. Buffalo, the new Buffalo stadium that
let's
is
hear it.
being built, $600 million from the state of New York and $250 million from Erie County. So $850 million. And that is essential. There is no
Yeah,
there's nothing to give money back to the state. There was an economist that said that at the time was the worst public subsidy of a stadium they've ever seen.
yeah, I remember that.
Uh, Tennessee, the new
Please
stadium
God,
being
keep the
built
Bills
in
here.
Nashville. Uh, $500 million for the state of Tennessee and $760 million in additional bonds, and there's new hotel taxes and things for a total of 120 or $1.26 billion, which is
Jeez.
now the biggest subsidy ever given to a stadium.
Yeah,
So
that's
in my perspective here, I we,
yeah.
we
Way to
could we
break
could
that
love
down.
we would love to see billionaires pay for everything, whatever. Personally, Jimmy Haslam doesn't have that type of money. Like, he's a billionaire, he has money. He doesn't have pay all in cash $4 billion for a stadium
Right.
type of money.
His business, like the Haslams, their businesses are very much the sports teams. Like,
Yes. And
yeah,
like the money he has from the Pilot and Flying J stuff,
right.
it was a lot of money when he bought the Browns, but now when you're dealing with today's
Oh yeah,
NFL
just
and
and just
billing, like
inflation and just in
they
general.
are already, in my perspective, they are already giving, I believe it's close to, it's like one point, it's over $1 billion of their own money. Um, to I think it's 1.2, 1.4, something like that.
Mhm.
It's over $1 billion in their own money. And then this additional money is just sort of on top, and it'll get paid back. And so I think they're definitely doing as much as they can.
I
And so
agree.
I at least credit them for that. Because they could be doing much worse.
I
But
agree. And that right there, stick a pin in that because I think it's going to be interesting just as these other stadium projects that you rattled off earlier start to, and the ones that we didn't already talk about. So like when Washington gets theirs going, when Chicago gets theirs going, hopefully, it's going to be fascinating to see like what public funds because I as much as we all basically no stadium doesn't get built without some form of public money. And it's all like it's that line on the like that level fluctuating is always what's fascinating
well,
to kind of like.
in my personal opinion too, I know people can disagree with this,
Mhm.
but why should they pay for all of it when it's going to be used for other events outside of this? Like, if this public greater economy of Ohio will be using it for
Right.
Ohio State football championships, they'll be using it for concerts. It's not just for the football team.
Correct.
If
It's
if
not.
if it will
Yeah.
be provided for other things, then what's the like what is the disagreement here with saying, yeah, we'll give you something? Like, they're paying for 75% of it.
I can
Like,
I can see the adage of like if you're from, like say from Cincinnati and you're like I don't want any state like money to go towards a stadium in Cleveland for another team. I
I
sort of
will
get
say,
that.
I will say, it's objectively very funny
It's hilarious.
to see them do this for the Browns,
Yeah,
and like the Bengals are just down there like we need a new stadium too.
yeah, Paycor. Yeah, and they're
Also, very funny that Governor
yeah.
DeWine is like close. He's from closer to the Cincinnati area,
Well, and there you
so
go. So I mean,
it's very, and I think he is actually a Bengals fan, so it is very funny.
not to mention if you're just in the state of Ohio and you're just not a fan of either of those NFL teams, like of course it's like oh, of
Yeah,
course like
but
my dollars are going towards the new Brown stadium.
hats off to owner of the year Mike Brown for failing to lobby the state legislature.
Yeah, yeah, you're crazy, man. Well, I for one am excited for City of Cleveland for the Browns. I am looking forward to seeing the new building go up. Um, while your team is making headlines because of new buildings, my team is making headlines because, hey, Omar Khan said, hey, let's just do all the trades on the Monday morning. This Monday was insane, by the way. Like
It was
it
just
was a
yeah,
wild,
it was wild.
it was
Yeah.
like a fire hose of stuff. Like there a lot of news happened, but you could all say, okay, we got to get this news out before the 4th of July. Let's go ahead and just, get it all out there, going through. But I primarily, I'm not going to talk about everything here, but the primary thing that happened on June 30th, uh, Steelers agreed to acquire cornerback Jalen Ramsey, uh, Jonnu Smith, tight end, and a seventh round pick in the 2027 NFL draft from the Miami Dolphins in exchange for safety Micah Fitzpatrick and a 2027 fifth round pick pending the completion of physicals. That was the big headline grabbing thing, and it kind of came like on the heels like that because like first it kind of was like, oh, Steelers acquire this, but then I wanted to the first one we got was like my immediate reaction is like, okay, strengthening the defense, that's fine. Like I see things going on with that, and everything. But I'm literally sitting here. I'm like, so what? You just it's a weird move. It's a weird move. You get another target for aging Aaron Rodgers, and you get Jalen Ramsey, cornerback, but you send away Minka Fitzpatrick, who it
Yeah.
was pointed out by a friend of the show, Matt, did not have the best season last year. So go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, as the way the news was coming in, it started with Steelers are getting Jalen Ramsey, and I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
Minka,
that
Jalen
was what it
Ramsey,
was. Yes.
and then like 20 minutes later, it came out, oh, they're sending Minka to back to the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, then why?
It was just a really weird.
Because for me,
It
from
was
like a
so
football
bizarre.
perspective, I didn't quite understand it because they already have like a pretty decent cornerback room, and then now they got rid of their starting safety, and so now their first on the depth chart is Juan Thornhill, who wasn't good enough to start for the Browns.
Yeah.
So it's just like I don't understand why you're loading up on cornerbacks and then weakening on safety. Like I
Yeah.
don't quite get that. I mean it might be a scheme thing. You could probably make up for it with
Yeah.
just playing guys other places, but I mean I get Minka didn't have the best year, but I feel like Jalen Ramsey's older.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean,
He's essentially a rental.
something on their X's and O's board says we want that like veteran presence at the cornerback spot rather than the safety spot going into this next season. I don't know. I usually tend to trust the Steelers brass when it comes to defensive decision making.
Mhm.
Not, and then I completely don't trust any offensive decision making. Situation. I'm not going to jump back on my thing here of like, what do I feel about the Steelers season? It's kind of this was ultimately kind of a trade where it seemed like both Dolphins and Steelers fans were like unhappy about it.
Yeah, everybody lost
Everyone was
because
not happy or indifferent, really.
since the Dolphins lost their tight end, they had to go and get one. They're signing Darren Waller out of retirement,
I didn't know that.
and it's just like good luck with that.
Jeez. I mean, I think most people would see that on the nose, be like, "Oh, the Steelers are the Steelers, so they won the draft. They won that, exchange." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. The Steelers are the Steelers, though. That I don't. That's a loaded phrase in 2025." Okay. Anyway, that was the news via Steelers.
I
Anything else? Go ahead.
just funny anecdote about
Hmm.
the John Smith piece of it. John Smith has basically been following around Arthur Smith wherever he's been. Like he was at the Titans with Arthur Smith, and then Arthur Smith got him to come to Atlanta, and then now he's getting him to come to Pittsburgh.
Right. I mean, it's just.
So it's just funny when you see players that coordinators and coaches like love that wherever they go, they make sure these players follow them.
Hmm.
And it's always like the weirdest like second string tight end, gotta have him because I know I gotta have him.
Fantastic. So, the other really big, another piece of news that came out of the fire hose, so to speak, on Monday morning, which I genuinely was shocked by. I really, once again, shout out to friend of the show, Matt, for telling us because that was so quick because I
Yeah.
immediately sent that to a few other people and blew up some chats like, oh my gosh, and it's official. The first bit of news in the day officially was that EA Sports straight up said, yeah, we're making a college basketball video game. Straight up, they said, it's whatever it said, it's in the game. Like,
It was essentially the same way they teased college football like
essentially, yeah.
5 years ago.
Yep.
It was like just a graphic, like we're working on it, like more to come. Like that was essentially just what they said.
Yeah. And I immediately was just like, I didn't see that coming, but I also was like, I don't know why, but like part of me just didn't think that they would necessarily jump at the chance to do that this quote unquote soon. But then I thought about it. And I'm like, well, if you're going to do one, you might as well start now because it's going to take a while.
Mhm.
Um, Immediately, like I was giddy because I literally am a sports information director for a college basketball team. So, and I've had people ask me this week, Casen, like, so what will like that entail from you? And well, let me just say the other piece because all of that happens. All of that happens are reactions to everything having to do with the EA Sports announcement happens. And then it literally like the later afternoon end of the day, 2K outright just tweets that they said, hey, like 2K should make one of these. And then they straight up tweet from the official account, the campus has been quiet far too long. And it's like, are we going to have dueling college basketball video games like we had back in the day? Um,
That'd be crazy. That'd be
I
crazy.
and it sounds like we are, and that brings me a roundabout way to say they'll definitely be reaching out to me for assets. If you recall in the college football video game, when that was all going on, they took they had to reach out to everybody because they needed assets. Yeah, but they reached out for principal photography because they were essentially building the stadiums again from scratch, which is essentially what they're going to do here. But apparently, some of the more information that came out through that whole thing through reporting is that it is going to be men's and women's basketball, which means theoretically, if that's 360, what's a 364 men's Division One teams times that by two, 728 teams will be in the
So
game, something like
I
that.
to me, I'm genuinely curious about this
Hmm.
because you're talking about like 360 arenas that they're going to have to build. I it's probably easy because they only do it once and then they can just have
Well,
different rosters.
yes, but think about this though, Casey. Not every women's program plays in the same building as every men's program. For example,
Um,
Raleigh, North Carolina, the men play in the arena downtown, the women play on campus. So that'll also have to be factored into.
they
Yeah,
probably won't have both. Like I can't imagine they'll give you two different arenas. I
who
would
knows?
imagine.
Who
Who
knows?
knows?
At
I
launch, at launch, probably not.
yeah. I don't know. I also wonder if maybe they won't and like only the major conferences will have their own arenas and maybe the lower tier programs might not get like their own copycat arenas and they might be just sort of
Mhm.
generic. I don't know, but
Now, I will tell you that. Now, I will ask you a question. Are you familiar at all? Did you ever play or see footage of the old of college basketball, the series? It was called March Madness, but then they changed it to NCAA basketball
a little.
or 2K. I was going to ask you if you've seen it because I never had the 2K games. I never played
Yeah,
those.
Not really, no.
The last one of the 2K, I believe, was like College Hoops 2K, I think 8. And then they discontinued that game. And then the final NCAA basketball year was for the 2000 and like 9-10 season, and it was college basketball 10, and it actually had Blake Griffin with Oklahoma on the cover. Um,
Mhm.
and it was pretty cool because like in those days, and they discontinued that game like about it was like 3 to 4 years before they discontinued NCAA football. And the lawsuit that began that whole mess started because of the basketball game, because it was a lot harder to hide the likeness and everything. So that's kind of where things led with that. But I thought to myself, well, they'll probably have to stop the basketball game, but they'll probably at least find a way to keep the football game going. And of course, now here we are 11 years later, and they're bringing back the college games. So I'm really, really excited. The coolest thing about which I still play it from time to time, just since I've, just in life, I still play NCAA Basketball 10 on the Xbox from time to time just because it's the last college basketball video game we got, right? And what's kind of cool about that is the main menu is set up so that like you're playing as a generic like guy. You can basically shoot hoops on the main menu. And then you actually click a button and the menu pops in. It was a period of time in there when EA Sports all their menus worked that way.
Mhm.
And I believe NBA Live was that way too, back when they made an NBA game. So I'm excited. I think this is going to be amazing. It's going to take a while, but like, it's kind of cool to know that, like, I even said to my mom this week, I said, little did you know when I was playing those video games growing up, I would one day be in a position to actually kind of influence them in my actual
Yes.
career. And
Right.
she's like, yeah, little did I know. Like, this is really amazing. So, um, any thoughts on that? That I haven't, because I said a lot. So,
No, yeah, I mean, I definitely think it'll be very interesting because I I think the like um I guess the like individual like career mode version of that is a lot more intriguing than maybe college football just because everybody wants to play dynasty in college football, but like the actual like player career would be
yeah.
way more interesting in college basketball. Because you can go be a Cinderella in March Madness with like you know a Oral Roberts or something, and then
Yeah.
transfer to a big time program, and then yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the potential. I'm very much agree with you. I can definitely see my career being maybe the most played game mode in the basketball games,
Mhm.
whereas Dynasty is the most played career mode in the football games. So it's cool. And the other thing is, in the meantime, we're gonna have like what 4 more years of college football, the video games of them fine tuning that experience like every year. So by
Yeah.
then, I mean, college athletics is always changing, right? But
Right.
by
Right.
then, I mean, think of all the extra assets that we haven't thought of yet that are also just going to be in the game at launch, in those
Yeah,
games,
no,
I
I
should
that
say.
that's a great point too because
Yeah.
they they will have they'll have a lot of connections from the existing uh FBS programs, and so the hard part is going to be the additional 200 teams that they
Yeah.
don't already have anything from. Because like I from what I've heard, Ziggy's going to be in college football 26,
Yes, it
uh,
is.
and so I they have all that stuff already, and so they can just port over the band information, the fight songs into the basketball. But
Correct.
yeah, I'm genuinely curious about how big of the team list is going to be in here because that's just so much. Like that's going
It
to be such
is.
a big game, and I don't understand how it's going to work.
It's going to work by they're just going to make them all.
Yeah.
It's going to be insane. That's why it's going to take that. We should have said there for the EA Sports game, which directly has been announced straight up. 2K has not announced anything, as far as I know, as of this like taping. 2K hasn't announced anything official. They've just kind of hinted at it. Um,
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know what I don't know if that was them just teasing or I don't know what because to me if you like aren't doing that and you just say that like because your competitor announced it, like that makes you look like an idiot. So it's like
yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
really
I
understand.
was like, yeah, they've said nothing else, so I'm like, you guys better have been serious. Like, you guys are not, I mean, but also they have such a monopoly with just the 2K NBA 2K that it's like, like. But the one thing I will say though is the one thing you wouldn't have in EA Sports right now is you wouldn't be able to take your My Career into an NBA game. So it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
is EA Sports going to think about that every time they try to relaunch NBA Live, it's never really been worth it. That might make it worth it again. So we'll see. Maybe, probably not, but
Mhm.
it might make it. And with 2K, you would
Well,
have that going straight
to
into the.
me,
Yeah,
as somebody who played a lot of 2K in college
yeah.
and stuff, I would love an NBA game that is not 2K because they have made 2K virtually unplayable.
I yes.
Like, yes.
People have pointed that out too. And I don't necessarily know if it's sort of like the NFL where EA Sports has the exclusive like license to make the one game, which the NFL should really let expire and just let anybody do it because competition breeds better games, beats better quality. So yeah, I think it'll be one way or another, it's gonna be fun. Hopefully 2K wasn't just like teasing though. Um the projected launch is like 2028. I think that's optimistic. I don't
Yep.
think we're getting this till like 2029 or 30, in my opinion. Just looking at it across the board, I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be a long time from now, but it's probably gonna be worth the wait. But I'm like thinking to myself, yeah, but college football was also delayed a year, if you recall. So I can see us
Yeah.
creeping closer to 2028, and they're like, yeah, it's gonna be 2029. So I can see that being the case too. But
Yeah, I mean, I do think that sort of this was they're making college football and they're going to see how that pans out to move on to basketball, and then also the revenue that they made from college football is funding the development of basketball. I'm
yeah,
sure.
the highest selling sports game of all time did that for him, Casen.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, yeah, I figured that
But
was
but
the case.
also, I mean, for the record too, like I I do credit EA, which they're different teams, and I think this is why. But like
Mm-hmm.
the college football team or dev team definitely is listening to the fans because like we
100%.
talked about it earlier. Like they're adding stuff into the game for 26 that people asked after 25 came out, and they're listening to what people want and they're doing it. And that's also actually bleeding into Madden. Like the Madden's has some updates that are things people have been asking for, and I think it's because I think I mentioned this too last year when 25 came out is the college football team is making the Madden team look bad,
Yeah,
and so they're having to
they're
just
like,
say,
oh, we gotta.
"Okay, give us these features," because
Yeah,
people make like because if Madden remains trash and like college football is goaded, like they can't like that's not sustainable.
yeah,
Like,
correct. They need to. You guys need to do something. So, like, again, even within the one company, it's creating better competition
yes,
with each other to
yes,
be like, oh snap, we got to actually like try now. So, um,
because
that
like from what I heard, like franchise is getting the biggest update in a decade
right.
to features, and yeah, so that's
Right,
good.
exactly. So we'll see what happens there. I mean, honestly, college football 26 should be out by our next show because we're gonna be off next week, and then
Yeah, yeah, I think it comes out next
so
week,
we'll
right?
get well we could talk about that a little bit while we're like also nerding out, hopefully about a good Superman movie.
Yep, yep.
You want to dive a little bit into some NBA free agency stuff, and then we'll talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
Ironheart.
I will just touch on as well. Lonzo Ball traded the Cavaliers.
Sure. Yep.
Interesting, bizarre, don't okay. Uh,
That entire
sure.
Bulls like core is now gone. Like Caruso,
Yeah,
Lonzo, get them all out of here. It's fine.
yeah.
I,
The
I
the
I
bull.
will
Yeah,
say I will say he's been so injured over the past like
yeah.
4 years that I'm saying this like unironically, like I genuinely hope the Cavaliers can use the guy. Um, he's just injury prone. That's really
Yeah, I
he's good when
think
he plays.
I
Yeah,
I think as like a bench like backup ball distributor, he'll be very good.
yeah.
As
Like I
long
actually
as
think he's a good
keep
addition
him,
to that
yeah,
Cavs
keep
roster
keep him
if
on a
he's
pitch
healthy.
count. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's just the key is he's got to stay healthy, which has been a struggle for him.
Hmm.
I the big thing for me for the Cavaliers is they are bringing back Larry Nance Jr. So the Cleveland legend. Larry Nance Jr. returning. Uh, Sending him away was, I think, sad for everybody, including him. So it's super exciting to see him come back.
Hmm.
Because I would have loved to, have him be there forever.
Yeah.
So, but it
Uh,
also very funny. He was teammates with Lonzo in L.A. On the
oh, well,
Lakers
there
at
you
one
go.
point.
It
It's very
works
funny.
out. I did want to make sure we mentioned that SGA got
Hmm.
paid, signing what a 4 year, 285 supermax extension
Yeah.
with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Listen, there's never a more deserving time for a guy to get paid after he just wins a championship where they've never won one before, right? So
Hmm.
to be expected there for sure. I want to get your take on this because there seems to be this is kind of NBA free agency. This whole section of the show is really just kind of NBA offseason talk.
Yeah.
Um, like, do you think there's a realistic chance that like LeBron's going to be traded? I've heard talks
So
about this over the
so
last like week, and I'm
yeah,
like, I want to ask Kasen if
doing the
yeah,
windy meme here. Um,
mm-hmm,
I don't know because I the big thing to remember here is LeBron has never opted into his contract. He's had player options every year going back like 12 years, and
yeah,
he's never opted into his contract. He's always opted out and then re-signed a different deal for more money and then a player option later. Um, and so for opting in, for one, I think is him saying he doesn't think he'd get 50 million on a new contract.
mm,
Probably not.
probably not.
Um, and then for two, I, some people think it's him signaling that he doesn't want to sign a longer deal because this is his last year. He wants to just take the player option and then just have his contract be up and he retires.
Yeah,
So that I think is the assumption. There was a thought that maybe he could be traded. I mean, I don't know who can financially make that work.
right,
I
exactly.
mean,
I'm like, yeah, I don't
trading
think anyone can.
I don't know who could make that would be willing to give up the pieces you'd have to give up to get 40-year-old LeBron. Like I don't understand who would make that
Coming back to
move.
Cleveland,
I
baby, one
mean,
last round.
so he was golfing in Cleveland today,
He
and
was.
people were saying he's wearing a welcome home hat. People are trying to think about that. I don't
Uh,
want him
uh.
anywhere near the team because we have to trade like Donovan Mitchell to get him, and it's just like that's not
LeBron
happening.
era round three, baby. Let's go.
I would welcome him signing on like a vet minimum, and like just riding the bench as co-captain,
Do you
whatever.
think like he would like I didn't want to make this just all about LeBron. Do you think hypothetically he would sign like a one day contract with like the Cavs to retire a
Oh,
Cavalier?
yeah, 100%.
I think
Yeah,
he'll do
100%.
that. Like
I think he'll definitely try to do some significant like retire a Cav thing because I mean, of course we're retiring his number, like duh.
obviously, yeah.
Um, so that's gonna go up in the rafters. I'm sure he'll do something at when that time comes.
His number's probably
Um,
well, there's a chance. His number's probably getting retired three places. So
the
Cleveland,
only question is what number.
yeah, right, right. No, well,
Because
numbers, yeah.
I I don't know because I think if I remember the title he won in LA was in 23.
I
So I
believe,
think
and then I think he switched it to six. I don't remember. I don't
I
remember.
don't I don't know. And then he switched it to 6 and then he switched I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, so it's just a
Anyway,
mess.
anyway, back to free agency. Back to this whole thing. I didn't want to pause
Yeah,
that.
so
Go ahead.
uh yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's something up. I mean, so I think it's fair to read into it because it is odd that he's done that and it means something and I would wager that it means that it's his last year. Um which is
I mean,
whatever. It's just I think
there's a. Do you
the
remember?
widely predicted and assumed outcome is come October he announces he's retiring at the end of the year
He could.
doing a Coach
Do you
K
remember
retirement
last year or
tour.
2 years ago when he teased it at the ESPYS? He
Yeah.
might just do it there, and we already know by our next show if that's going to be the
Yeah.
case. So we'll see. Not to make that all about LeBron, but I was just like, this is a good time
No, I mean that's fair.
ask Casey about it.
The other big NBA news for me anyway that I thought was interesting is the Bucks waived Dame Lillard and
Mm-hmm.
they're stretching his contract out. Yeah, I mean, kind of counter to what I was just saying, but uh yeah, I owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, Jimmy Haslam,
Yeah.
certainly knows how to waste money on player salaries and pay dudes for not playing for him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So yeah, 'cause if you're not as familiar, Dame was another Achilles, right?
yeah.
So he'll be out next year anyway. You talk about a dude who I feel really bad for, Damian Lillard, man.
Yeah.
But either way, he'll get paid while
That
he's not playing.
that Trailblazers like core with him and CJ, uh like they had something and then it just didn't work out and they just
Yeah,
blew it all up and they're all basically just getting tossed around the league. I mean, it's sad because they
and
definitely
we'll
were
see what
right
happens
there.
with Giannis. The other piece of news I wanted to go ahead and just say is the Knicks are expected to hire Mike Brown as their head coach. Um, I
Is
don't
that
know.
real? Is that better than Tibbs?
Here,
I mean,
here's the
seriously.
interesting thing that I'll mention about this whole thing. Sort of like when it happened, when we talked about Tibbs being fired, dude. This just feels like it's like, okay, who wants to play the game of who wants to coach the New York Knicks? Apparently nobody, because they free and
I
and a lot of places wouldn't
Yeah.
even let their guy interview like
Well,
half the league. So
the weird thing was they fired Tibbs and then immediately just started requesting current head coaches and
yeah,
everyone was like, "No?"
no, what do you
Like,
get
"What?
out
No."
get out of here with that? The Bulls were one of them. They tried to hire Billy Donovan.
And so I look, I
Interview him, I should say.
to me, I the so he's coached in Cleveland, the Lakers. He was the associate head coach of the Warriors, and he was the coach of the Kings up until this year. um, so I mean, if you want to go back, I mean, he has not made a conference finals without somebody named LeBron James on his team.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, he was LeBron's coach the first time he was there.
Hmm.
Um, and that was kind of, I think, like where people gave him credit when they maybe shouldn't have. I just don't get it. I mean, he's got pretty much a very mediocre record without LeBron, and so I just don't understand why anybody assumes that he's going to be good.
LeBron traded to the Knicks, confirmed. That would be nuts.
Yeah, no, I think essentially, I feel like the Knicks. I want to know so bad because I almost am willing to bet money on the fact that the Knicks called Tibbs back at some point and said, "Do you want to come back?" And he said no.
No,
I am betting money that that happened
I
because I promise you, within a day of them firing him, they had regret immediately
they were like,
because
well, wait a minute.
they're
We
like, "Wait,
actually
nobody wants to coach for us? Oh
nobody wants
shoot!"
that job. It's I don't know. It's just it's again, it's not as coveted as you Knicks probably think it is. So, and now you know for a fact. So, Mike Brown kind of gets it kind of by default. Not that he's not qualified. I'm not saying that. It's just they he's like the 100th person on the list they talk to.
Do
Okay.
you want to do you want like $10 million to work for 2 years and be fired? Sure.
Yeah, it's like sure. I'll see what I can do with this Knicks roster. Hand me the clipboard, you know. But that's what we got as far as sports go. Do you want to get into Ironheart and then kind of close the show out?
Yeah, let's get into it.
So let me preface this by saying I wasn't aware that like the entire show was going to be out by the time like this show is being recorded. But I watched the first three episodes of Ironheart on Disney Plus.
I did as well.
Spoiler alert for Ironheart. We're not going to beat around the bush. We're going to just be honest about what's going on and talk about certain plot points. You said you also have seen the first three?
Yeah.
Cool. So we're at the same length.
Yes.
Um, my immediate, I am going to pull the lid right off of this and just immediately say, like, this was like, obviously where we are in the show right now. They have hinted that something more like demonic is going on
Hmm.
with Red Hood, played by, I don't know, I messed it up. It is the actor who played Phil in Hamilton, the original one. He's been entertaining. He's been interesting enough.
Hmm.
Um, interesting choice to do it in this show, I will say. And it makes me wonder, like, just how long that was in the mix, because I feel like it's a direct response to everyone going crazy about Mephisto in going all the way back to 2021 with WandaVision. Do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely odd.
Yeah, it's just an odd choice. But regardless, generally, what'd you think of the first three episodes?
Uh,
We won't go plot point by plot point. We can just kind of.
I mean, look, I understand the position the show's in, that like they kind of just had to just dump it because they already made it and they knew it didn't really do anything. And I
It
not
feels a.
faulting I'm not faulting anybody particularly involved with the actors or whatever. It's just I can't seem to make, like, I'm having to force myself to watch it because we have to talk
Mm.
about it. Like, it's not interesting. I don't really I don't care. Like, the first 35 minutes of episode 1, I was like, why am I watching this? I have like I am given no in like they are not giving me any information as to why I should care. I like in the first 10 minutes Riri got kicked out of MIT and I'm like, why? Like, okay. Like I like they're explaining that, okay, she's been doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, but you were just in Wakanda
Yeah,
saving the world. Why are you at MIT? Like, why? Like, I don't understand like you were just in Wakanda saving the world, and now you're getting kicked out of MIT and working with common street thugs. Like, I don't understand like the conflict that they're setting up here with her storyline makes no sense, because you're telling me that if she called up what's her face, a Black Panther's sister, and said, "Hey, I got kicked out of college, gotta come live with you and build stuff," she'd
Shuri
say,
or whatever.
"Yeah." Well, yeah,
Yeah,
you mean like she wouldn't be welcome back in Wakanda to build stuff? Like, I don't understand the context of this situation that she's in, and
yeah.
the lack of the lack of exposition is, at least at first, to make me want to care, is so like mind-boggling to me.
Well, the other thing about it is, on that point, using your point as a springboard, one of the things I've noticed, and not just in the Marvel, but also like in Star Wars, like in really any piece of content, it's like they have to regress characters in order for there to even be a plot, right?
Yeah.
And it very much feels like they have done that to Riri at the very beginning of this show, in the sense of she's actually a really strong character in Black Panther 2. Is the
Hmm.
thing. Like, she's like, oh, so she's like legitimately, she's like can do all this stuff and also, and they start her out in such a bleak place. But on top of that, you're Riri Williams and your first thought is, I'm gonna go work for like these straight up criminals. It's like, yeah, it there's got to be some other avenue by which you can continue your work. But they boil it down to, oh, I need money. So that's it. I'm like, I don't know. You seem to fix up the iron suit pretty easily on your own. Like,
It's
I mean,
it's also, by the way, it's also of like, oh, we need this suit by tomorrow, and she just does it. It's like,
yeah,
in what like it's so the opposite of like Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps. Tony Stark built this in a lab with billion-dollar equipment, and it
yeah,
took him weeks. And you built it in your apartment in a day?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what is happening here?
Riri Williams was able to build this in a room with a box of scraps, like the same kind of thing. Speak incredible callback, by the way, because the third episode's where we find out that the John character is Ezekiel Stain. I thought that it was very. I will say that right there, that reveal was the first real pull me in moment of the entire show. And it just,
Yeah.
I swear, it's a lost art, man. Back in the days, you got one episode, you got one TV pilot to actually lure in an audience. Now it's like you need to put out 3 episodes, and it took all the way until the third episode for me to have anything in this show that I really like. Thought, oh, this could go an actual interesting Marvel direction. You know what I mean? And I would lump the end of that episode up with the same thing, obviously, where the job goes bad and a member of the crew tries to attack Riri
Yeah.
and gets killed, and ultimately, you know, the Red Hood character, Parker, is literally yelling at some unforeseen like thing, and I was just waiting for, oh God, it's gonna be like Mephisto. And to be fair, I know Sacha Baron Cohen, as I said on the show, is he's going to be in it at some point because he's listed on IMDb as that character. So like I know he's at least going to be an embodiment of that at some point. But I was expecting it kind of there. But I remember texting you. I'm like, not until the end of that episode do they really kind of allude to and hammer home exactly what the severity of what we could be dealing with here, as far as like the Marvel goes. But combining it with this kind of like crew of schmucks, I don't. It's an odd writing choice, but I
Yeah.
also try to put myself in this mindset, Casen, of would this show have done better if it released exactly as it currently is right after Wakanda, Forever, like the second movie. And I've done that mental exercise in my head, and so far I'd say no. I don't think it would be any better if it was closer
I
to release that movie.
Mainly because I think it would have been so jarring because of like what you said of like the character of Riri does not pick up where we left her. It's like
Mm-mm.
she we left her off as just saving the world with the Wakandans, and she figured out how to build all this stuff, and then we fast forward to a little bit later and
She's
she's getting
also
kicked
like
out of
basically
school and
Iron.
broke.
She's already like Iron Woman anyway. Like in that
Yeah.
movie, she's already kind of like a hero. You know?
So I don't understand as to why like this is where they decided to go with this because it would have
Yeah,
made way more sense to have just been like Shuri gave me this Iron Woman suit, and so now I just have this thing and I'm just doing stuff. Like it would have been way more interesting to see her start out basically being the new Iron Man and see how that goes
yeah.
rather than trying to figure out how to get money to build the suit after she already made one in Wakanda. It was just like I don't
They
understand what
also
we're doing.
they again another piece of character regression. She seemed very much like a hero in Wakanda Forever. In this, she really does just feel like a directionless kid who literally is continuing to tell Ezekiel Stain, "Why'd you build the suit? Cause I can, not to help people." And he said, "That's
I
not an
don't
answer."
maybe I don't understand the
Yeah,
timeline. Like, did her friend Natalie and her stepdad's death happen between them, Wakanda Forever? And I don't understand the timeline of
it,
this.
it, it
Like,
like it's implied that we haven't even talked about that yet. It's implied it happened relatively recently. Like I think they say how long it's been at one point.
I,
Um,
I mean, I can understand the character regression if that is like the trigger
that's
of
true.
her doing that. Like,
That's true.
I can understand that, but they also really didn't explain that.
No, they
Like,
didn't. And
I mean,
yeah,
it took you 3 episodes to even figure out that she was there.
correct.
Like,
I will say that the most interesting thing this show has done so far, probably because it probably sounds like we're really ripping it apart. Really not trying to. I think it's got glaring flaws in it, and it just like folks are doing fine. It's just like you, Kason said, they're struggling to kind of keep my attention. There's only 6 episodes, and I will finish the show and we'll talk about it, whatever. But the most interesting thing they have done in this show is that through some means by which she doesn't really know, her new AI is her deceased friend Natalie, is taken
mhm.
out completely after her deceased friend Natalie. That was a genuinely cool thing that they did to kind of show because of like what that would do to mess your mind up and all that stuff. And it's like sort of like your best friend's back, but that would also be just a head trip. You know what I mean? I'm like, she's
Mhm.
not totally accepting of it. I'm like, yeah, grief's a hard thing. This would be really not okay. And it was really like kind of her mom that kind of coaxed her out of that line of thinking of like, yeah, but she's like cool, she's an AI, and she's like it's like your friend's back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
But also, I mean, that is it was sort of an interesting thought and idea, but also just like how she made that. They just kind of went, Ah, she made
Yeah, that's true.
it. Yeah.
She hooked her mind up to like this thing, and they had no way that, or at least as of three
Like,
episodes in, they have not explained that.
but like this is my point of like this is supposed to be. I mean, I guess this is where we're blurring the lines with the whole like Mephisto storyline, but like these are like the Iron Heart, like Iron Suit, whatever storylines are supposed to be more of the grounded stuff because it's just tech. And
Yeah,
like in Iron Man, they kind of explain it. Like they sort of show like he has Jarvis fabricating it and it's made of these alloys and like it's all tech and it shows him sort of building it.
like how he
Whereas
builds it. Yeah,
whereas with this, the big stuff is like it's just AI and she just does it. It's just like yeah.
yeah.
it's
It's like significant MacGuffins that are just like a device for the plot to just move forward.
it's trending into the like science fiction territory where it's just kind of like why are we here? Like
Right.
this is
And the big thing with like the main bad guy being essentially the Marvel Universe's devil, like one, level character for a show like this is quite the decision that I'm gonna say right now. If this could be really bad if they don't stick the landing. Like I don't I because I'm like, as interesting as this
yeah.
is this really going to come down to
I
like a fight with like a cosmic being and an iron suit? Because in my head I'm like, that doesn't equal
I
good.
because to me the I if they would have had the chance, they should have merged this into like whatever Iron Wars
Was
was.
going to be, yeah.
Like because to me, if you have Riri Williams trying to build an Iron Man suit, how do you not have Rhodey and Justin Hammer involved trying to get her to build it for them? Like
Well,
I don't understand that.
well,
Like
also, and also, there's the other issue of another bad, not that great Marvel series with whatever the status of Rhodey's character is at this point. But I agree with you. I completely agree with you that it's like it's weird that they're not involved at all. You know, uh,
like
Don
I
Cheadle's expensive, man.
but well, yes, but like that's also my point of like it
Yeah.
took 3 episodes to get to Ezekiel Stain to get to okay, so like this is still in the Iron Man concept. I was like, it took half the show to get to this point, and this is the most interesting part of the show.
Hmm.
Like Riri accidentally spilling Obadiah Stain's
Yeah.
ashes in the kitchen is the best part of the show.
Yeah, so far, right? So far, I think my predictions for where this is going to go. Obviously, I'll through the rest of the week, I'll watch the rest of it. But I think that generally speaking, I think Zeke Stain is going to be somewhat like a helper of hers. It's already kind of happened,
Yeah.
kind of part of the crew, so to speak. I do think from the very beginning, I thought this has like falling out with the rest of the crew written all over it, like with what's going to happen. He's going to reveal something, or something's going to happen, and maybe we'll see it in the next episode because of the way the third one ends. But I thought to
Well,
myself,
she
Parker's going
also
to do
like
something to alienate the rest of the group or
yeah.
something.
Well, she also she killed the one like she straight up killed that guy who was trying to
She
kill
did.
her.
She
Um
she left him.
she let him die.
True.
And I think inevitably Parker's going to find out.
Hmm.
And so there's going to be a whole thing and yeah, and then she left that biotech behind and so they're going to trace it back to Ezekiel and he's going to be mad. And so it's just I don't understand. To me, I get it. Like I understand you have to like this is sort of the downward spot in the
It's
story
the
arc.
it's the a
It's
story
just
arc. It's the,
it's just every single decision she makes is the worst decision possible. It's like I get that you're like 20 years old, but you're also an idiot. Like you are straight up an idiot.
yeah.
And
That
every decision you're making is the worst one to make in that situation.
and again, that's furthering my point about character regression because they continuously keep calling Riri a genius, right? She's a genius. You can tell. I'm like, yeah, engineering wise, she can build stuff, but I'm like, she's also just like a screw up college kid. Like this is I don't know. This is giving me those vibes more than it's giving
I
me,
mean,
you
to be
know.
fair, I mean that was Tony. Like Tony was
True.
it was a party boy idiot, but
True.
Yeah,
And the
I mean, yeah,
yeah, it's a good point. So overall, this show has gone some interesting things have happened. Like I said, Case and you and I are literally at the halfway point. So there's 3 episodes that are out now. I will be completing it one way or another. I will
mhm.
finish this up. Um, but this really does have uh June Disney Plus project written all over it.
Yeah.
It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. No, I wouldn't even say it's necessarily as bad as
I
the lowest points of Secret Invasion, but
yeah, I to
it's
me,
leaning more that way for me than it is positive right now.
so I know I said things about like crediting Miss Marvel and She-Hulk to some degree about just trying different stuff
Correct.
and going different directions.
And I wasn't.
My
We
the
were not as hard on either of those
my
shows as other people have.
my thing with this show is it just kind of brings in the worst elements of both of those shows
Mm,
into one show of like lack of exposition to really explain what's happening and difficulty with that, and then ham-fisted like pop culture references to relate to young people. It's just like, okay, like they're
it's
throwing in all these like Gen Z slang terms, and I'm like, why do I feel like a boomer? I'm 30. I'm like I'm not even 30, and I don't understand half of what they're talking about. Like, what is happening?
30. I'm like sitting here. I'm 31 years old, and it's like the meme at the end of Saving Private Ryan, like you just getting older.
Yeah,
Like, I'm just sitting there. I'm like, this is me watching this show. Um, to kind of go along with that, sounds kind of like what you're saying is this feels like it was written back when they were putting stuff like that together. Like
yeah,
this was not written since they've kind of done the overhaul, so to speak, of all
yeah.
right, let's get back on track and like actually put out quality projects.
I
Yeah,
it would have made way more sense if this was released with those other shows, and
correct.
it fits better with that. And so I don't know. I mean, Marvel's not a studio to Batgirl a project, but
No,
I mean, I it makes me wonder if they had serious conversations about doing that only because it just doesn't make sense. Like they're not going anywhere with these storylines. It's not really relevant. I mean, I would have almost just said screw it, write it off, and then just redo it entirely new. Like
throw the whole thing out and redo it
yeah,
again. Yeah, I
yeah. I
mean,
mean, I don't.
a
It's just it.
lot of money for a TV show. I mean, I see your point. Because if all this show is going to establish is Riri is now like basically another young Avenger, why did we really need this? She kind of
The,
already is that at the end of Wakanda
that
Forever.
was yeah, that was
Yeah,
already
that was
established.
already
Okay,
established. So it's like, what's just more of it? I
it
don't know.
just it comes down to it should have never been made. Like
Hmm.
no offense to anybody involved.
No,
You all, I'm sure, worked very hard and are very proud of what you made. It's just
they all got their money.
this is just a project that didn't have to exist and just shouldn't have been made. Like it didn't need to exist.
The one positive I will also get it is, there's not like it's another black female led like, storyline kind of thing. It is kind of cool. And I also have always said it would be cool if there was a Chicago superhero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe of some kind. Those are two like positives I just want to make sure I say because it is kind of cool that we've reached a point now with Marvel where everyone is represented. Like every kind of there's a character for every kind of demographic is what I'm getting at there.
Mhm.
It's just that does not save the other criticisms we've had for this thing so far. So
Yeah.
so we'll finish it up. We'll talk about it. I can't guarantee to our audience that that's going to be a really long discussion, especially with the other stuff we're going to be reviewing here in like the relatively near future. But that's our show for your July 4th week. Any final thoughts, my friend?
Mitch Marner is a Golden Knight. So
Okay, there you go.
yeah,
I
yeah.
wore this
I
hat today because the
yeah,
Pirates, as of this taping, have won 6 straight games.
yeah.
Swept the Mets like got historically bad, uh, and as of right now have not yet lost to the Cardinals either. So,
Yeah.
pretty great stuff. once again, Kason and I will be off next week. I'm going on vacation myself. So, hope you kind of enjoyed. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening, watching, however you consume. Thank you, Kason, for your short and tell. That was awesome. And just in general, being you. And hopefully by the time we come back, there'll be a Superman movie out. So that's cool. That's cool. This is Kellan,
This is Casen.
and we'll see you as always at the next stop.